Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So last week we discussed Kaccanagotta Sutta, and the previous weeks we also discussed Sammaditthi Sutta. All these suttas actually highlight the importance of the Sammaditthi, the right view. The whole Sammaditthi Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya was explained by Venerable Sariputta, and today also we have taken a sutta which is discussed by Venerable Sariputta. This is also a very well known sutta available in Majjhima Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya 28th, Maha Hatthipadopama Sutta, the greater discourse on the simile of the elephant's footprint. Now, at one occasion, Buddha was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, and at that occasion, Venerable Sariputta addressed the monks. And then they replied as friend, so we are ready to listen. And then Venerable Sariputta want to explain some Dhamma. So, Sayathapi also yankinchi jangalanang pananang padajatani sabbani tani hattipade samodhanang gacchanti hattipadang tesang aggamakkhayati yadidang Maha netattena evamevako also yekechi kusala dhamma sabbete chatusu ariya satchesu Sangham Gacchanti. Now he is taking the Four Noble Truths and then giving a simile of the elephant's footprint. So we all know that the elephant's footprint is the largest one in the forest. So if we see an elephant's footprint, we know it's a fairly large one, and you can put any of the other animals' footprint inside of it. So the elephant's footprint encompasses everyone else's footprint, so large. So similarly, Venerable Sariputta mentioned, if we consider all different sorts of Dhamma, the teachings of the Buddha, these Four Noble Truths are the most important one, or we can say the chief of them. When we consider different teachings of the Buddha, the chief of them is the Four Noble Truths. So what are the Four Noble Truths? So here he is giving a brief explanation. Katamesu chatusu dukkhe ariya sacce, dukkha samudaya ariya sacce, dukkha nirodhe ariya sacce, dukkha nirodha gaminiya patipadaya ariya sacce. Now these are the Four Noble Truths. The Noble Truth of suffering, the Noble Truth of origination of suffering, then the Noble Truth of cessation of suffering, and the Noble Truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. So basically we discussed this even during the Sammaditthi Sutta. In the Sammaditthi Sutta also, Venerable Sariputta points out that one has to have some understanding about the Four Noble Truths. And if so, he is a person with the right view. So one aspect of right view is to have thorough understanding or realization about the Four Noble Truths. And there's a traditional wish that people usually make, that may you understand Four Noble Truths. Now that's a kind of a wish sometimes people used to say, because the understanding of Four Noble Truths is extremely important. And the first Noble Truth, with respect to the Noble Truth of suffering, so Buddha particularly highlight that you need to thoroughly understand it. The dukkha has to be thoroughly understood. Dukkhang ariya satchang pariññayang. It has to be thoroughly understood. The second one, that is the cause of suffering, tanha, has to be abandoned. Dukkha samudayang ariya satchang pahatabbang. So you need to clearly see it, and once it is occurring at your mind, again and again, one has to abandon it, let it go. And the third noble truth, dukkha nirodhang arya satchang satchikatabbang, it has to be realized. So once it is present in the mind, you need to notice it, recognize it, appreciate it, be with it, dwell with it, realize it. So it's very difficult in a way, because what we can see in our minds are the conditioned phenomena. Those are easily traceable, easily noticeable. When they are absent and there is no grasping, so such mental state is very difficult to comprehend, very difficult to even appreciate. But the point is here, with respect to the third noble truth, you need to realize it, you need to dwell in it, thoroughly understand it, thoroughly be in it, and realize it. Now, the fourth noble truth, dukkha nirodha gamini patipada arya satchang bhavetabbang. So, in order to accomplish this whole task, you need a path, you need a practice. So, that is the Noble Eightfold Path, and that has to be developed. Bhavetabbang. So, this is the important model that we need to keep in our mind. And today we can start with the first noble truth. So that is how Venerable Sariputta approached this sutta. So basically he is trying to give us some understanding about the Four Noble Truths. And first of all he is going to explain what is the first noble truth, the noble truth of suffering. Katamanchauso dukkhang arya satchang. Jatipi dukkha, jarapi dukkha, maranampi dukkhang, sokaparideva dukkha domanasu payasapi dukkha, yampiccan nalabati tampi dukkhang, sankittena panchupadanakkhandha dukkha. Now this is how he explained the first noble truth. Birth is suffering, aging is suffering, death is suffering, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair are suffering. Not to have what one wants is suffering, and in short the five aggregates affected by clinging are suffering. Probably you can remember in the Buddha's discourse on the Four Noble Truths, the very first discourse, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, he further mentioned piyehi vippayogo dukkho appiyehi sampayogo dukkho. That means being apart from the loved ones and being have to associate the sort of which we don't like, so that also produce suffering. So that part is not included here, but anyway we can consider that that is there in the not obtaining what one wants is suffering. Somewhat we can recognize inside it, we can consider that as well. Now special attention of Venerable Sariputta is drawn to the last one, Sankittena panchupadanakkhandha dukkha. So that is the last statement even by the Buddha when he was explaining the first noble truth. Venerable Sariputta also repeats the same thing. In brief, clinging to five aggregates are suffering. Now first of all we need to understand what are the five aggregates. So he then give an explanation about the five aggregates. Katame chauso panchupadanakkhandha sayati idam. What are the five aggregates affected by clinging? Rupa upadanakkhandho, vedana upadanakkhandho, sanya upadanakkhandho, sankhara upadanakkhandho, vijnana upadanakkhandho. The material form aggregate affected by clinging. The feelings aggregate affected by clinging. Perception aggregate affected by clinging. And then the formations aggregate affected by clinging. And the consciousness aggregate affected by clinging. Now in this sutta, now he starts one after the other, step by step, and he now starts explaining what is the Rupa-upadanakkhandha. Katamacha Rupa-upadanakkhandho. Chattaricha Maha Bhutani, Chatunnancha Maha Bhutanang Upadaya Rupam. And what is the aggregate affected by clinging? It is the 4 great elements and the material form derived from the 4 great elements. So what are the 4 great elements? Patavi dhatu, Apo dhatu, Tejo dhatu, Vayo dhatu. They are the earth element, water element, fire element and the air element. Now he is further explaining one after the other about each element. So what is Patavi dhatu? Katama chauso Patavi dhatu. Patavi dhatu siya ajjattika siya bahira. Now there are 2 categories of Patavi dhatu. 2 categories of the earth element. One is the internal, the other one is the external. So what are the internal earth element? Katamanchauso ajjattika Patavi dhatu. Yang ajjattang, pacchattang, kakkalang, karigatang, upadinnang. So there are, these words are very important. Ajjattang, they are internal. Pacchattang, we consider them as belong to oneself. Kakkalang, they are solid. Karigatang, they are solidified. Upadinnang, and they are clung to. And it has another meaning. Basically, when we are born, they basically are born as a result of the previous karma, and that is what we immediately attach with, immediately grasping the body, the very beginning of the body, and it's growing, and so that is the upadinna. So what we acquired as a result of our birth. So when we are born to this life, so there is a body, so that is the upadinna kaya, the clung to the body, and that very basic form is the upadinna. Seyati idang kesa loma naka danta tacho mansan naharu atti attiminjang wakkang hadayang yakanang kilomakang pihakang pappasang antang antagunang udariyang karisang. Now these are the probably you can remember the Dvattin Sakara, the 32 parts of the body. Among them, except the Mattalungang, that is the brain, so all the other 19 parts are here. They are the head hairs, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinews, bones, bone marrow, kidneys, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lungs, intestines, mesentery, contents of the stomach, feces. And after coming to this, he then includes all other, whatever the solid, whatever the solidified, which are more into the earth characteristic. And Yangva Pana Anyatampi Kinchi Ajjattang Pacchattang Kakkalang Karigatang Upadinang Ayang Uchatauso Ajjattika Patavidhatu. There may be various other parts. So you know that when we consider the body, so these 19 parts are not the only parts. There may be other many small pieces. If they are actually showing some sort of a solidified nature, and that also included under this earth element, which is internal. So typically we consider this body belongs to me, and it is whatever inside the body we consider as internal, and what is outside the body we consider as external. So this is our normal understanding. So Venerable Sariputta is taking this same approach, and he is explaining that whatever internal which are solidified, that comes under the earth element. Now, how are we going to recognize them? So one thing is the reflection. So we all know where these parts are located. Probably you can refer an anatomy book if you want. So you can get some understanding about these body parts. And actually this is also a type of meditation. So probably you have heard about the Asubha Bhavana, where you are trying to recognize the loathsomeness of the body parts, where the reflection is that you are going one after the other considering the loathsomeness of the body. But here loathsomeness is not considered. That we need to understand, because here we are not trying to understand the loathsomeness of the body. Rather, we are trying to understand the solidity or solid nature of the body parts. So these 20 body parts or 19 body parts are considered like quite solid. They have their solid nature. It has their shape. There's a fixed shape. There may be little, some parts may be hard, some may be soft. So likewise, when we consider this 19 parts, so we can here actually trying to recognize their solid nature. And one interesting thing is you can use as a reflection. You are keeping your mindfulness, your concentration to each and every body parts, and again you are doing some sort of a body scan. So you can do it as a meditation. When you consider head hair, you are keeping your attention on the head hair. When you keep body hair, you keep your attention on body hair. Nails, you keep your attention on nails. Skin or teeth, you keep your attention on teeth. So likewise, you can go one after the other, paying attention to each and every body part. And that's not a difficult task, because you know how they are. Actually, when it comes to Visuddhimagga and other traditional texts, so they are explaining in detail each and every part. So what is their shape, and how loathsome they are, and what is their color. So all that subtle details are there. But in general, we all know what is the color of the hair, what is the color of the nails, and what are their shape. All that we have some understanding. So that would be enough to start with. And you can keep your attention, your mindfulness, concentration to each body part, and keeping your attention there for a while, and then you are going to the next part. So likewise, if you do body contemplation, considering the various parts again and again, say you need to do it again and again, then your mind get concentrated further and further, because previously assumed that your mind has scattered, distracted, but now you are trying to constrain your mind, your attention to these various body parts. So one result is actually you reduce your view of compactness. So we consider this body as one unit, one whole body, one thing. But as you contemplate like this, you may understand, okay, it is not just a single thing. It comprises of various body parts. That's a very, very important realization, because our assumption that this body is one thing, that's how we see it, that's how we refer it, or it belongs to me. So those kinds of wrong notions are there, wrong views are there. But when you consider this body as various body parts, so that compactness, taking the body as one single thing, is broken, shattered, and now you understand, okay, it is a combination of various body parts. This is very, very important. So when you know that the body consisting of various body parts, it's difficult for you to attach to it, grasp it, hold it as me, myself, because now you know it is not just one thing, it is combination of many body parts. Now say for example, if you consider a car has so many things. 4 wheels are there, seats are there, axles are there, engine is there, and you have to put some oil, that is there, maybe petrol and that sort of fuel is there, and steering wheel is there, and so much of small pieces, they attach together, they are arranged in a particular pattern, and now we assemble it, and then we ultimately put a bonnet and all that, the whatever this covering, and maybe even we apply some beautiful color, and now we call it as a car. We can attach to the car, We can consider it is as my car, my beautiful car, my new car, my old car, all that we can say. But if we again disassemble it, divide it to all little pieces, then we can see we can't find a car basically. So this car is actually a sammuti. Car is just a name that we have given after combining all these little pieces in a particular fashion, and then we have given it a name, a car. That's a convention. But if we divide it into little pieces, now we can understand, okay, there is no such thing called car. What is available is so many parts. Similarly, when we consider our body, we consider it as one thing in a general way, in an ignorant way, which causes a lot of attachment, lust, hatred, all that, because we consider our body also as one thing, someone else's body also as one thing, my loved one body also as one thing, and my enemy's body also as one thing. So I can generate lust or I can generate hate. But if I am able to dissect it or dissect it into little pieces, little body parts, then we can't find out a person. With whom am I going to be lustful? With whom am I going to be hateful? So basically we lose that hindrance, we lose that defilement, because we see to some extent its realistic nature. Now this is one aspect. Now after explaining Venerable Sariputta about the internal Patavi Dhatu, he further say, Yacheva kopana anjattika Patavi Dhatu yacha bahira Patavi Dhatu revesa. Now both the internal earth element and the external earth element are merely simply earth element. Now even though we consider earth element as internal and external, earth element is merely earth element. So our demarcation is just a convention. It is our own assumption. The earth element doesn't know whether it is in a male body or female body. It's inside a child, inside a girl, inside a boy, inside a man, inside a woman. The earth element doesn't know any of those. So it is we that we have considered, okay, these are internal, these are external. But if we consider thoroughly, earth element is merely simply earth element, and that demarcation is our own demarcation. That is a assumed demarcation. It's not a real demarcation. Now what I have explained so far is actually just the dividing the body into various pieces, various earth element parts, but still the earth characteristics is not something that we understood. Now in certain cases, actually when we consider the body as these different body parts, it is true that we can understand they are consisting of various body parts, and some of them are having too much earth characteristic, that solid characteristic. So we consider it has the majority of earth element. That is possible to understand. And another aspect is there when we are talking of the Dhatu Manasikara. So there we are going to another level. So how to practically understand the solid nature, the solidity. And in order to do that, we need the characteristics of the earth element. So here actually it is concisely or very briefly explained as in terms like kakkalang, karigatang. So kakkalang means very solid, solidified, gross or hard. So that characteristic is there in that term. So therefore, actually when we are talking the Dhatu Manasikara, we are trying to understand the earth characteristic more practically using the internal earth element. So typically therefore in elements meditation, Dhatu Manasikara, the earth element is explained with 6 characteristics. The hardness and then the softness. roughness, and then smoothness, and then heaviness, and then lightness. So altogether there are 6 characteristics: hardness and softness. So whenever you touch the earth element, earth characteristic, so either you feel it is as hard, or either you feel it as soft, or it may be roughness or smoothness. A particular surface may be rough, or it may be very smooth. So they are actually showing the earth characteristics. Or it is heavy, or it is light. So when the earth element is solidified and accumulated to a very higher level, higher degree, we feel its heaviness, its weight. But if it is lightly connected, then we consider, okay, it is lighter. So this is the way, in a way, the practically how we can recognize the presence of the earth element. Now what we have here learned through the Maha Hatthipadopama Sutta are different components which are showing all these 6 characteristics. Now say for example, if you consider your teeth, so if you touch it, probably you might feel it as gross, or it is solid. It may be rough, or it may be smooth. And if you are touching it further, probably you might feel it as kind of rough or smooth. Or if you take it to your hand, it may have a certain weight, and it may be light. So if you consider another large body part, like bones, if you consider the whole skeleton, if you touch one after the other, you can see you can recognize this hardness. Hardness is there, and certain parts may be soft. Now bones are particularly very hard. If you consider the flesh, if you consider the skin, then they may be soft, but still they are earth element. Certain parts are very, very solid, strongly bound, and they show their solidity, their hardness, roughness, they show particularly. And certain others actually, even though they are actually also earth element, they are softly bound, and they are soft, and they are smooth. And similarly, if you consider the skeleton, it has a very higher weight also. Now when you are weighing your body weight, a fair amount of weight is taken by the skeleton. Skeleton has a fair amount of weight. So similarly, all the earth parts, that means Patavi Dhatu combination, all they are showing some sort of a weight. You can measure it. Now on the other hand, certain body parts may be lighter. Maybe if you consider the say nails or head hair, body hair, they may be very lighter. So likewise, so all these earth elements, some of them are lighter, some of them are heavy. So all that actually belongs to the earth element. Now it is available in the outside as well. Now you know that the earth element is not only inside the body, it is available in the outside also. Now say if you are keeping your hands on the table, now table also very solid, it's also very stable. Table is stable. Now you are keeping your hands on the table and you can feel its solidity, and table may be rough if you haven't properly brushed it or softened it. It may be soft if you are keeping it very soft. So the smooth surface may be rough surface, its hardness, its softness, and table has certain weight, and certain tables may be light. So likewise, all the external solid objects also show all these 6 characteristics. Internal earth element also show these 6 characteristics. External earth element also show these 6 characteristics. So in the elements meditation, in the Hatthipadopama, not only we are trying to understand what they are through their names. So what are the body parts which consist mostly the earth element? There are names like head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, etc. So we have to go further into the earth element characteristic. Because when you do some sort of a body contemplation, it is true that we can understand the presence of these various body parts. To some extent, it is also breaks the compactness view, the ghana sanya remaining in our mind. That is also quite helpful to avoid any kind of attachment, desire, lust, hatred. But as we further refine our attention to each and every part, probably you can understand there are subtle characteristics. So one example, if you consider, say you are keeping your attention on the rising and falling of the abdomen. So as we breathing in, rising happens. As we breathe out, falling happens. Now this is a very smooth process, very subtle process. Now there are also probably you can understand some sort of a hardness. Probably you can understand softness. Probably you can understand some tightness. Or maybe some lightness. Now if you consider rising and falling, it is more into the air element. But still, the earth element is also there. Probably you can recognize that. Now, say for example, while you are walking, so your body weight transfers from one way to the other, from one leg to the other leg. So if you are mindful, if you are keeping your attention, you will probably able to recognize that. So how your body weight transfers from one leg to the other leg. So body weight. So the weight is earth characteristic. So here we are trying to recognize the characteristics. And even as you continue, probably we can drop the names what we have given, like body hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh. So these are names, conventional names that we have given to them so that we all can understand them. But later, as we are giving or paying our attention thoroughly to the earth characteristics, then we don't need to remember these names. Rather, we are very much like emphasizing the earth characteristic. So the earth characteristics: hardness, softness, roughness, smoothness, then heaviness and the lightness. So these are the, actually you can see that it has some heavy side as well as the lighter side. Hardness, roughness, heaviness are into the heavy side, and the smoothness, softness and the lightness are into the light side. All six belong to the earth element. Now as you are walking, you can recognize it. As you are sitting, you can recognize it. If you pay your attention to the body weight, even while you are sitting, you can recognize the body weight. So likewise, so when you are having fair amount of mindfulness and fair amount of concentration, so these earth characteristics become more and more evident. At the beginning, it might not, because our mind is distracted, and again, mind is not concentrated. It's difficult to understand the characteristics. But later, suppose that you start with the typical body parts, naming them, contemplating, knowing their locations. As you are continuing such meditation, your attention become more and more concentrated to the body, confined to the body. And as you further refine your attention, your concentration, so these earth characteristics become more and more evident. Actually, sometimes when we are talking the elements meditation, we are not starting with the earth element, but we typically start with the air element. So that is more easier for the yogi practically. So that's why rising and falling, or anapanasati, that is the in-breath and out-breath. So they are more into the earth, more into the air element, and that is much easier for the yogi to start with the air element. But it doesn't mean that he is limited to that. Later he get into the other elements as well. Now here we are starting with the earth element. So earth element also you can recognize through the body. Now as Venerable Sariputta points out here, the earth element, which is not only internal, there are external earth element as well. He hasn't given explanation about what are the external earth element. Now he has given a thorough explanation about the internal earth element, explaining 19 parts, but he hasn't mentioned anything about the external earth element other than telling internal and external earth element are merely earth element, because it is quite obvious in a way, because outside there are so much of earth elements, various objects which are showing more earth characteristic, as I just mentioned, maybe a table, maybe a chair, maybe a stone, maybe a rock, maybe a wall. So much of earth elements are there which are showing majority earth characteristic. And another thing is that these four elements are always manifested together. You can't find earth element in single form. You can't take earth element singly, putting away the water element, air element and the fire element. All of them are combined together, but one of them may be proportionately higher in concentration. Say for example, if we consider say a table. So table still has water element. It still has temperature. It still has the fire element. It has the air element, which are not that evident. What is evident is the earth characteristic, the earth element. So that's why we are calling it as earth element. Similarly, say for example, skin. When we consider the skin, it is also majority is the earth element, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have Apo Tejo Vayo. It is also still have the water element, still it has the fire element, still it has the air element. So therefore, there's another sutta Venerable Sariputta is explaining, showing a log, a timber log, and showing that he is saying that one with psychic powers, he can even understand inside this timber log there is water element, air element and fire element, but it is not evident. What is evident is the earth element if you consider a log. Therefore, we don't need to think that when we are recognizing earth characteristic inside the head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, etc., we have to know the presence of the other elements as well. Venerable Sariputta doesn't highlight that, and particularly in that sutta he explained that it is evident only to a person who is with psychic powers. So we don't need to have to go to that level. So there are other body parts which are showing the water characteristics, air characteristics, fire characteristics. So we can use them to understand those. But when we are recognizing earth characteristics using the majority earth components, we don't need to worry to recognize, okay, where are the water element, where are the air element, where are the fire element. We don't need to see. Rather, it is enough to see the earth characteristics using this given list. Now, anyway, when we practice elements meditation, so we actually are not limiting ourselves to the earth element. So in general, we are trying to recognize all four characteristics, or rather all four elements, knowing and going through their different characteristics. So we'll come to that one by one. Now, as I said, so when you are practicing Dhatu Manasikara, the elements meditation, recognizing earth characteristics is the important thing. There we actually forget about the shape of the part, we forget about the location even, but we are trying to emphasize the earth characteristic. And in that actually we are trying later to understand the universal characteristics. That is the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness and the non-self. So when we are knowing earth characteristic like hardness, softness, roughness, smoothness, heaviness and lightness, it doesn't mean they are like particles. Rather they are, we can say, are moving energies in a way. So hardness is not a one solid thing. Rather there's a beginning of hardness, changing of hardness and ending of hardness. Similarly, say roughness is not a constant thing. Rather there is a beginning of roughness, then there's a changing of roughness and then the ending of roughness. So likewise they become all sort of activities, various little acts. And so when it comes to elements meditation, we are going more and more deeper levels to understand their energy characteristic, we can say, their changing characteristic, the impermanent characteristics, unsatisfactory characteristics, and most importantly, their non-self characteristic. Probably you have heard about the simile that Buddha is giving at the elements meditation in the Hatthipadopama Sutta. He is taking a butcher. When he is killing a cow, so he has the perception about an animal. So I am killing a cow. But later, after he removed the skin and divided it to various pieces, and now he is selling meat. Now he doesn't have any perception about an animal now. The perception has completely changed into meat, flesh. So likewise, when one practices elements meditation, at the beginning he may have certain amount of compactness view, the Gana Sanya, and he may have certain amount of self view. As an individual I am practicing. But later all those wrong views are abandoned. Ultimately he understands, okay, what is available here is nothing but four elements. What is available outside is also nothing but four elements. So likewise his understanding is growing to the level that all the physicality that he is now saying as, okay, what is available is nothing but elements. So likewise his perception has completely changed as a result of the elements meditation. Okay, so we'll go one after the other with respect to these elements. So today I like to stop here. Now I like to open the session for questions.
Thank you, Bande. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Do you have any questions on your side, Bande?
Yeah, Venerable Dhammavijita is going to ask a question. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Bante, for your teaching.
Yep.
Excuse me. So in this sutta, we're talking about the view, or right view.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Still we haven't emphasized that,
Yeah.
but anyway we are developing the right view, because you know that as we continue this practice, so one time you may understand how impermanent they are, particularly. So now each element, how impermanent it is. So understanding their impermanence is more thoroughly understanding their right view. What is the right view? Now, say for example, in certain suttas like Nandikaya Sutta, so there Buddha highlights about this characteristic that I think I last time explained that in the with respect to Samadhitti Sutta. So various some correct views are there, right views are there. So they are so understanding their impermanent nature is one type of right view. So similarly, when you are talking about this elements, so that's why they are not permanent. So one sense we can say we are removing the solid compactness view we have, later we are changing it to the kind of, they are all combination of many things, amalgamation of so many things. So there is nothing called as one unit. And even later we may get into a level, okay, things are very transient. Even though they are little pieces, they also are changing. They don't remain as it is, but they also change. So that knowing the changing nature is much deeper right view. And so we are coming to that slowly, in a way. Not immediately, but we are coming to that slowly. How right view could be developed. Now say for example like this. Now in the Paṭamanandikkhaya Sutta, Buddha is telling, Anicchanyeva bhikkhave bhikkhu rupang aniccanti passati sāssa hoti sammaditthi. So he says, so this body, this matter or this form is impermanent. So if someone knows that impermanent nature, impermanent form as impermanent, that is right view. So that's the point. So each and every aggregate he is telling like that. So anicchanyeva bhikkhave chakkung aniccanti passati sāsa hoti sammaditthi. Anicchanyeva bhikkhave rupang aniccanti passati sāsa hoti sammaditthi. So likewise he is explaining. So whatever we consider as permanent, now you recognize it as impermanent, as transient. Now at the beginning we are not able to understand that immediately. Now what we understand is, okay, these are different body parts. Still we can't say they are as impermanent. But more and more we are getting to the elements. Later we understand, okay, these elements also change. They don't remain as it is. That's why I mentioned. So this hardness is not same forever. Hardness has a slight beginning, changing and then ending. Softness also start, beginning and then, beginning, middle and then the ending. So they are certain kind of activities actually. So these elements characteristics are certain kind of activities, certain energies. So when someone is coming to that level, we can say he has thorough right view, a more deeper type of right view. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
Yeah. Okay, that's it from our side, Jennifer.
Okay, thank you, Bhante. I'd like to invite Geshan for the next question.
Saranai Bhante,
Yes.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Very good. So, I really enjoyed the talk today, and this is how I have sort of realized, because as a child also I have done this type of a meditation, and sometimes I try to think about when I talk about certain aspect, how one would perceive, and I think I can get into that, because sometimes you might sort of think the earth element itself, if you sort of think about a granite or some type of stone, that is hard, and and one can sort of say it doesn't sort of the elements doesn't exist in our body. But I think what we are trying to sort of say, okay, and maybe even if you touch a piece of wood, it is hard as well, but that doesn't have that comparison when you compare within our body. Our body is made out of cells, and certain type of cells basically creates these bone structures and etc. But merely it is just that type of a direct comparison. A heart is that hardness, and the same hardness you feel it when you touch your bones or your arms or your skins, and that is that type of earth element we are comparing, I guess. Is Is that accurate thinking?
Yeah, I mean, internal and external is kind of a division that we have made. There may be like cell-like structures even in the outside. Now, say for example, when you are talking of botany in the trees, so they are also talking certain kind of cell-like structures. So therefore, we can't say it is only unique to the human body, but it is common to other areas as well. And it's a combination of different elements. Now, say for example, if you consider our skin, and if you consider teeth, skin and teeth are different. Skin and teeth are different. Skin has certain softness, and the teeth has so too much of solidity. But still, the majority we can say is the earth element. Skin certainly has certain amount of wet, watery characteristic also. That's more evident. But it doesn't mean that the teeth doesn't have it. Teeth also has become like solid because of the cohesive characteristic of the water element. So all four elements are there, but at different proportions.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree, and I understand that, and I also believe and thinking about these four elements in our body, like the air element is very present because the nature, when we breathe, it is that air that we take in. Not only that, within the body cavities, we have the space element, which contains air too, like inside the stomach, and after you have experience, or we all have experience, inhaling, exhaling, burping, and all that after consuming food. So the whole idea of these four elements, the nature of its changes as well, and when you compare the outside as well, you see the similar kind of elements that changes as well. Is that sort of the whole premise is not to be so attached to your body? It's the most beautiful thing, in your youth you think about it, but not, and of course it is changing in nature, and the changes you see within these four elements. And is that the sort of main reason, so to detach that, or to give the detachment of that attachment that it can create?
Definitely. So actually we attach because we have given wrong emphasis or wrong importance. We have attributed wrong importance to the internal earth element as it is beautiful, it is mine, it is more important, more valuable than the external earth element. Not knowing their say true nature, not knowing their common characteristic, not knowing their common properties. So more you understand internal and external are merely our own assumptions, and whatever earth element inside and whatever earth element outside are merely earth element. So there are, one sense you lose that importance, the value that we have attributed. On the other hand, you are losing the solidity, or we can say the compactness. All that ultimately help to avoid any kind of an attachment, avoid any kind of a lustful belonging or any kind of a possession. Rather, now you are quite detached. You have even sort of a repulsion, or we can say a kind of a disenchantment. As you know that the yathabhuta jnanadasanam nibbidattang viragattang. So when you see things clearly, the one result of such understanding, such wisdom, is the detachment, dispassion, disenchantment. So that is the whole aim. Because it is not that we are trying to do a scientific analysis and trying to understand what are the say like a scientist, a physicist would do. Because their approach is actually to find more subtle particles, and they are their nature, etc., etc., and maybe later they are going to use it in a weapon, mass destruction, this and that. So that is their motive. But here the understanding is, so you also do a kind of an experiment, but the result is a detachment. Result has to be the detachment. Result has to be the relinquishment, so that the mind does not grasp anything at all, considering these are important, these are beautiful, these are mine, etc., etc.
Yes, I think that is the most important aspect what I have realized as well.
Correct.
And the more the value that I had given to certain objects in the past, and I feel, there is no much value, because of course, there is a material value or the dollar value maybe, but that also is, it's sort of decaying as well, or changing in nature because of these. Because when you really see any type of object and you see these elements, their presence as well. So I really like you're confirming the same thing that I was thinking about it. So that's all what I had. So I really appreciate. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thunruan Sanai.
Yeah, Thunruan Sanai. Now basically Buddha particularly highlight, now this whole Dhamma is for viraga. It is for dispassion. Now our minds are typically attached to things, and that is causing suffering, unsatisfaction, whole sort of mass of suffering. Now the aim is to understand the true nature of things. So the impact of that understanding is to detach, dispassionate, because we attach because we don't know their true nature. Now that's why when Buddha defines the Rupa Khanda, he say in certain suttas like Kajaniya Sutta, so it is subject to deformation. Ruppatitiko bhikkave tasma rupanti uchati. Ruppatiti. It is subject to some sort of deformation, some sort of a change. And what are the examples he is giving is more simple examples. Now say for example, our body can be easily get sick even using a mosquito bite, even because of heat, even because of cold. And so likewise it is very, very vulnerable, and it is not permanent, it is not a solid, permanent, stable thing. Rather it is very fragile. So when someone reflects like that, his attachment reduces, his clinging, grasping reduces, and the importance that he has attributed also reduces. So the mind is easy to release now. When it is strongly attached, strongly hooked, it is difficult to release. But when you loosen the attachment, now this is possible to release. So the ultimate goal is to release the mind from everything without attaching to anything, without holding on to anything. So by giving this kind of a teaching, giving this sort of a environment, so that we are facilitating that whole releasing process.
Yes, I agree. And my final question, if you don't mind, explain. Like our body is not only made out of these four elements; it is also made out of space element as well as the consciousness, and those two are not being considered for this sutra. Would you know what the reason behind it, or am I going into unwanted territories?
I need to go through the whole sutta further. Actually, we'll discuss this further. So he is explaining the manifestation of the other, other aggregates also. Now, when you consider the other aggregates, say Vedana Khanda, Sanya Khanda, Sankhara Vijnana, So there the other aggregates or other elements are covered. Now say for example, when we are saying cha dhaturo ayam bhikkhu purisoti, when Buddha is explaining like that in the Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta, so he explains the four elements and then the space element and then the consciousness element, and that consciousness element actually includes all the say feelings, perceptions, formations and consciousness. That is one division. Say the point is the division or explanation given through elements, explanation given through ayatanas, explanation given through aggregates, these are different explanations. But ultimately telling us, giving us the facility to liberate, relinquish, abandon things, to avoid any grasping. Now explaining about the elements are also the same way. So currently we are talking about the four elements, and later we'll get into the other aggregates, so that as you said, it will cover the consciousness element also.
Very good.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Bante. Turuan Saranai.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bante. I don't believe there's any other questions from our side.
Okay, then we can wind up the session. Actually, this just the beginning of this sutta. So as we are moving forward, we are getting more understanding and kind of combination of so many other parts coming together, so that it is easy for us to link many different dots and have a thorough understanding. Okay, then we'll have the sharing of merits. So all the merits what we have acquired by discussing the Dhamma, by listening to Dhamma, and even going through some short meditation, we share with all the celestial beings, with all the past relatives, and whoever in need of merits. And we wish these merits help us also to understand the Buddha's teaching and practice it, and to realize Dhamma to the best of our ability. We'll recite the traditional verses. Ettavata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang
Sabbe devan modantu sabba sampati siddhya. Ettavata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang Sabbe bhutan modantu sabba sampati siddhya. Ettavata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang Sabbe sattan modantu sabba sampati siddhya. Akasakta jabum akta devanaga mahidika Punyam tangana moditva chiram rakantu sasanam. Akasakta jabum akta devanaga mahidika Punyam tangana moditva chiram rakantu desanam. Akasakta jabum akta devanaga mahidika Punyam tangana moditva chiram rakantu mamparam. Idam vonati nang hotu sukita huntu nateo. Idam vonati nang hotu sukita huntu nateo. Idam vonati nang hotu sukita huntu nateo. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo. Satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana patya. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo. Satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana patya. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo. Satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana patya.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Bante. Theron Sanai.
Yeah, Theron Sanai.